Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the episode number 23 of Rata Business Chunautiyan, a program that we started as COVID hit us to bring the trade members together and to share knowledge and to collaborate and grow together. Today's event is all on refrigeration, and I've got Akash Verma here with me, who is our treasurer, who's helped me put this event together. Hi, Akash. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ajit. Quite excited to share this podium with you today.
Awesome.
And
Akash,
looking
we are
forward.
2 years ago when we first started the first program of Business Chunautiyan, we were about less than 200. From what I remember, we were just about, I think, 185 members. And today we are doing the 23rd program, and we have crossed 1,000 members at the associations. What do you think about it, man?
I think it's been a fantastic journey, Ajit. When you're saying 185 to 1,000, you must remember that it's been about 1.5, 2 years of the COVID era. When people went down, we were busy collecting everyone. We were pulling them up. We were telling them that there's an association which can support their need today. And at a time when somebody is down and they believe in you, I think those are the relations that will stay forever. It's the association that has been able to bring out 1,000 people because we need numbers. We need numbers to show the government that there's one big industry. When there are certain policies that come up, it's Rata's responsibility to ensure that the members gain out of those policies that are being formulated. So it's been 1,000. I think we've just started. We need to really go far. But all I can say is that it was a fantastic time to make 1,000 because this is the time when people needed someone to look up to. A lot of programs that we've done, the effort that has gone in from all the 15 regions that are there in the country, by all the committees that are there formed in those regions, I think that effort, we need to give a message to each one of you. Thanks to your effort, today you see 1,000 members who you have given value to through all those programs and the effort you have put in with the right people you brought onto this platform. So, Ajit,
Amazing.
for me, I think it's a great win. I feel like standing up and
Absolutely.
doing a dance, but I will control myself.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, to all our viewers, please remember these are the MSMEs in our business. These are not the multinational companies or large companies who are our members. These are MSMEs who are contracting companies, sales and service dealers, manufacturers, importers, traders, consultants, business owners who have become our members. Never before have we had such a forum where entrepreneurship was actually being pushed for bringing in to scaling up the business or to attracting new entrepreneurs into the HVAC&R segment. So today we bring you an interesting story, a story on refrigeration scale up, a very interesting personality who is second generation entrepreneur and who's taken his business to new heights. And the idea of sharing these stories is to learn from our colleagues in our industry, to get inspired from them, and to think out of the box and ask a very simple question. Can I do the same? What is it that I need to do? Can we widen our horizons? Can we become global players, not just local players? Think big. Look at the whole new avenues that's available. So today our guest is Mr. Viplov. He is the director and CEO of Werner Finley, a mechanical engineer from RV Bangalore. He's a second generation entrepreneur who joined Werner Finley after finishing college in 1998. He started at the flow shop, worked in product design and development, sales and marketing, and then took the lead in management in 2010. Today, Werner Finley is a leading manufacturer of industrial cooling systems in India with over 60 applications from manufacturing to medical food, data centers, defense plastics, printing, etc. They have a global presence of exports to Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and the SAARC countries. So before I bring in our guest today, have a look a little about Werner Finley.
Consider the people making a difference in the world today. They are innovators who are inspired to build a better tomorrow, adapting to opportunities of the future, and help create a sustainable world. Look closer and you will find passion and purpose at work, driving optimized solutions by infusing agility to meet changing demands. Since 1986, Werner Finley has been providing solutions to a variety of industries and applications where uninterrupted cooling is essential to realize improved productivity. Our cooling systems are operating across the globe, from the deserts of Arizona to the cold high altitudes of Leh to the saline environments of Maldives. Werner Finley touches your daily life in more ways than you can imagine. Consider the roads that you drive on, homes that you live in, automobiles you use to commute, food that you cook, and even the way you entertain.
So there are 3 chillers that we picked up from Werner Finley, but we also are now buying 4 cold rooms from them, and everything for our storage of our beers as well as for our yeast propagation. These guys were incredibly technically competent. They were nice guys, they knew what they were talking about, and they were enthusiastic. They were hungry for the business. And even though we're a small company, they really were interested in working with us. So we've gone to Werner Finley exclusively for all our cooling requirements.
One of the critical applications Werner Finley supports is healthcare. We are constantly at work to make medical aid more reliable, thereby contributing to a healthier life. We provide advanced energy-efficient cooling solutions for data centers, thereby enabling seamless connectivity and uninterrupted data flow, supporting the technology we all depend on. We at Werner Finley care for the environment. We help make clean energy a reality by providing a variety of solutions to the alternate energy sector. Our cooling systems are Industry 4.0 ready. The centralized data logging and analytics enables predictive maintenance and helps understand load patterns versus cooling requirement, thereby designing more energy efficient and reliable solutions.
Werner Finley is one of our major suppliers for chillers. Chillers are the most important equipment for our MRI. If a chiller stops working, an MRI stops working, and it's a direct loss of human life, not even the money is related to it.
Werner Finley's commitment to the environment begins at the workplace. The manufacturing facility at Bangalore is an energy-efficient green campus designed with sustainability at its core. The abundance of natural light and ventilation significantly bring down the use of artificial light and air conditioning, thereby reducing our carbon footprint. This concern for the environment flows into the products we design. We use energy-saving technologies like variable frequency drives, adiabatic cooling pads, and digital scroll compressors to reduce energy consumption of the cooling systems. We are adapting our machines to use the latest eco-friendly refrigerants as per the Kigali Convention.
In terms of the impact which Werner Finley's products and their services have had on our business is straight away the number of chilled and frozen orders from customers have gone up because of our ability to provide these goods in the freshest possible condition to them.
At the core of Werner Finley's belief system is people. Great organizations are built by great teams, and great teams by great individuals. To realize full individual potential, an environment of creativity, collaboration, and free thinking is ensured and enabled. Werner Finley provides a great platform for today's engineers to mature and graduate into tomorrow's leaders. Committed to the next generation, we have adopted the Arehalli School at Uttarahalli, Bangalore.
ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಸಹಕಾರದಿಂದ ನಾವು ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇದು ಅನುಕೂಲ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ನರ್ಸರಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸು ಮತ್ತೆ ಅಡಿಗೆ 3 ಜನನು ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇದರಲ್ಲೇ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
Werner Finley's vision is to be the most preferred partner by customers worldwide for their process cooling needs. We wish to build trust through transparency, build relationships based on warmth and competence, infuse innovation into our culture, and be proactive in our response. Innovation at Werner Finley is not and will not be limited to the product alone, but also in the way we engage, transact, and support our customers leading to stable, mutually beneficial, and long-lasting relationships. Werner Finley will strive to bring about a positive change in the lives of people, process, and technology continuously.
That is amazing. Hello, Mr. Viplov. Thank you so much for taking time out to be for our members here today.
My pleasure, Rajat. And hello, Akash. How are you?
Hi, Viplov. Awesome. Really nice having you on the platform.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, I think it's not a great day in terms of the stock market, but I think listening to you, we'll have a lot of positives coming out. So looking forward.
Awesome.
Same here.
Awesome. So great,
Yes,
Viplov.
Rajat.
So that little video kind of got us into a little insight. But why don't you actually tell our viewers on your entrepreneurial journey? You're a second generation entrepreneur. A lot of people in our business are second generation entrepreneurs. So tell us your journey. Tell us about the company, the business. Over to you. Tell us before we actually get into this whole discussion and deep diving into it.
Sure, Ajit. Yeah, see, Werner Finley is a brainchild, or it was created by my father, late Mr. Gundurao, and he passed away very recently on January 8th. And he was always an entrepreneur, since his very young age. And in 1986, he created a business called Werner Finley, which was into manufacturing of cooling systems for industrial applications. So we started off in 1986, manufacturing panel air coolers and oil and coolant chillers for the machine tool and automotive industry. That's where the journey started. And today, we cater to more than 60 applications, out of which, like you would have seen on the video, we have a huge range of applications from manufacturing to process to IT to medical applications. And we have also now, good exports to European countries, Middle East, Southeast Asian countries, as well as the SAARC nations. And Werner Finley today has, manufacturing in Bangalore and sales and service across the globe. And, we have about 200 people working with us today. So it's been a very long journey since 1986 to now. It's almost been, 35 years, but it's a very rich learning for us. And every year has been a great learning. And coming to my journey in Werner Finley, the very next day I finished my engineering, I went into, because it was kind of given that, this is what I'm going to do. And because this is the only thing we always spoke at home. So I joined Werner Finley on October 28th, 1998. And directly, that was my dad's way of getting us inducted, right from the shop floor, because he believed that unless you know how to make things by your hand, your mind won't be able to wrap itself around it. So I started off in the shop floor, did some production service for about 2 to 4 years, I guess. And then, started designing low temperature chillers for chemical pharma applications. And then started learning more on the product development and design front. And then, of course, had to go out into the field for, sales. I did all of that till 2010, learned, basically the fundamentals of the business as well as, the market. And then dad started slowly taking a back seat and, pushing me ahead. And by 2010, I started taking up, the management role, wherein, my whole dream, or, the kind of dream that I built in the first 10 years was to start scaling up this business, because I started seeing that there was a lot of potential. So since 2010, so it's been a great learning journey for me, and I'm continuously learning. So hopefully, someday we will be a global, player, manufacturing and, supplying across the globe.
Amazing. So Viplov, I have a question. Now you're a second generation entrepreneur. So I want to ask you how easy it was actually getting to start working with the founder and who's your dad. And what were those key things that, that once you got in, those key things that actually helped you grow, the key factors that helped Werner grow after you took over?
Right. See, one thing is we had a very clear compartment. So at work, I was not his son. So I would directly go into the shop floor and start working. And I don't know, the culture was quite strong that way, that nobody even saw me as the owner's son. They taught me, and, I had to help and work around, along with everyone else. I had to learn the, trade all by myself without having, the advantage of having the silver spoon. So that way, yes, it was not so challenging for me in terms of getting inducted as the owner's son into the business. So that was not an issue. And coming to the second part, of your question, key factors like the last 10 years, what have I been doing in order to grow this business? One is Werner Finley was mostly focused on machine tool and automotive sector for marketing and sale of the products that we built. I started exploring other applications. So that was the first thing I did when I got into sales and marketing. So we started entering into markets such as food processing, chemical, healthcare, all of these kind of markets where previously we were not present. So these cooling solutions were required there with some tweaking, with some better understanding of the application, some customization was required. So this is what is the first thing that I did, exploring different applications for the same solutions that we already had. And next is we started aligning ourselves to certain basic industry standards. We got our first ISO certification during 2008, and then we I think we were very early to implement ERP also. So we had an ERP when our turnover was less than 10 crores, and we always believed in keeping it organized and keeping it professional the way we worked and all of that. And the third key factor was a team. And this is something that my dad also believed, and I also believe very strongly, that you can't achieve on your own. You can't achieve success on your own as a single man. So it is always better to build a team and start delegating whatever you're good at. It's better that you delegate and you start looking at doing new things. So team building was the third key factor. And the fourth one was, of course, financial discipline and financial planning. So this is another very important factor. If this is not taken care of in the background, then it could destabilize everything else. So there was some principles of my father where he wanted the business to be debt free as much as possible. So even today we try to remain debt free. And he was always very clear about saying no to bad business. He was very clear about that, and he's tried to educate us also that it is very important to know when to say no. So saying no is something that is very hard, but it is a must in business. And these are the key factors: exploring new applications, aligning to certain standards, international standards, having a system and process early on into the business, building a team, basically structuring, however small you are, it's best to have team so that you have proper responsibility, proper accountability of team members. And then of course the financial planning and financial discipline in the background. These are the key factors.
Scaling up and going debt free, they're just 180 degrees next to each other.
Yeah,
Just look the other way around. But and trying to get a balance between the two has been a challenge for every entrepreneur who wants to scale up his business. Because the biggest problem that you have is you get aspirational, and then your debt starts rising, and that tends to slow you down. But it's amazing that you've done.
Yeah.
So we've heard this challenges coming from a lot of our members who are in the refrigeration business, and primarily they haven't scaled up because of these the requirement for capital and going debt free and saying no to customers. What's your take on those entrepreneurs or those business owners who want to actually bring in their next generation? Because you've come in and you've actually scaled up the business. What are do you have certain tips that you would like to share with our members as to this is the to-do list to bring in your next generation, or when they come in, what do you do?
Right. Yeah, for me, what has worked is, at home, he always discussed business problems. So it was not that we were not privy to what was happening at work, at my dad's workplace. So at home, there was a lot of talk about, the company. In fact, the name of the company is also something that we all discussed, and it was named Werner Finley just to sound European. It's easy to sell. And, he always had this, marketing mind. That's how the name of the company also came. So we all had a personal connect. And anytime there was a function or anything, any puja or anything in the factory, we would all go as a family. So, and during my vacation, etc., going to the factory and understanding what's happening there, etc., was kind of something that I've done through my schooling days and college days. So there was always this inclination that, I have to get in here, understand these, the trick of this trade, and then try to scale it. It was kind of it started inviting me into it. So that was the early seeds that father probably, sowed knowingly or unknowingly into me. And then when I came into the business, the learning happened from scratch. I think the fundamentals are extremely important. And no matter, though I was an engineer, I could have probably gone out and, worked somewhere else and then probably come back into the business. There were many other choices. But the choice that we made jointly was, I learned this from scratch. So literally from building the product to how to design it, to how to service it, to how to sell it. So this is a key factor where, the next generation, when they come in, do not give them directly a managerial position or a responsibility that they completely don't understand. So that's the second point. And the third is allow or give them the complete freedom. Like when I was learning, when I was going to work, I had complete freedom to choose what to do, right? And I chose production, and then I, after some time wanted to do some design, etc. I wanted to explore low temperature chillers or, going into different markets, etc. So there was complete freedom to try and fail. So I failed several times trying to get into different markets and, not being able to establish, in those markets. We've come back, we've taken back many things that we've started. So several such, failures and very few successes, but giving that freedom is extremely important. And somewhere, keep that startup, environment within the, old establishments. So give that flexibility, because today's generation, their exposure levels are extremely different, and they are hearing all their colleagues either getting fat checks in software companies or starting, and everyone's watching Shark Tank these days. So there's a lot of buzz around startup, right? So I'm sure most businesses have the wherewithal to kind of have a nook or a corner where, that corner is like a startup, within the company. So that's something that will attract this, generation, where they don't have to absolutely start from zero. There's some support, there's some, infrastructure and resource already available to experiment and do whatever they think can contribute better to the business. So I think with all of this, they should be able to attract the next generation. And I think we do need younger blood, because nowadays what's happening is, what I hear around in colleges, everybody is opting computer science. So the mechanical engineering stream classrooms are going empty, right? So yes, I mean, IT is good, and I'm not saying, that whatever is happening is not good. But it is important that we also make our trade, our businesses, attractive enough to the young generation, and also have, more casual office setups, and, spend something to attract this next generation is very important.
That's right. So, the refrigeration industry has been a very, very scattered industry. And you spoke about, how you introduce systems, you put ERPs at a very early stage, and especially from a manufacturing sector, because we have a lot of members who are into refrigeration, who are manufacturing. How important are these systems, and why do you need to invest in them? Do you need to think through it, or it just falls in place as you scale up? How does this whole thing work here?
Right. Yeah. It's it'll be harsh for me to say it's a no-brainer. System is a must. It's a must, because the only sign that a business is alive, that it has to be growing. Otherwise, you just look at any business that's not growing. And the fixed cost will catch up within no time, and you'll be struggling to stay afloat. So it's very important that every business continuously grows. And this is not an easy task. And that is why so few businesses, basically live for longer than, a certain amount of time. So systems are a must. To grow a business, the owner needs to think of, growth. He cannot keep thinking of how to run the existing business. So to run the existing business, you need to draw your clear boundary conditions, set your processes in place, and then, bring in systems so that you can most of the time autonomously, run this existing business, and you can very easily remotely manage it while you are, as a business owner, thinking of growth alone. So unless you are able to get that 30-70 ratio of 30% of your time going into running your existing business and 70% of your time going into understanding how to run this, how to grow this business. Because growth is a very complicated subject, which only the owner will understand fully, because he has the whole view of his own company as well as the market. So he can draw these relationships and understand in which direction, should he grow. So systems are extremely important. And the earlier you adapt to a systematic way of working, the better. Because otherwise it's going to become like Mumbai or Bangalore roads, You already have this network of roads that was built, I don't know when, And today, correcting this road system is literally impossible by any genius, right?
Amazing.
And you need to keep the traffic running while you are trying to build flyovers over it. It's a mess. It's a
Mess.
complete mess. So I've been through this experience of, we are always trying to bring in systems, but we are already halfway through, and then getting a system and trying to superimpose it over what is already happening. There are practices, there are, people get so accustomed to working a certain way. That's one of the biggest challenges when you're trying to implement systems, in a company, where trying to transform people's way of working becomes a very big challenge. So the earlier, the better. Systems and processes are a complete must.
Amazing. Too good. I like that whole 70-30 ratio that you clearly spelled out. That's a nice thumb rule. So before I bring in Akash, one last question. Akash is going to deep dive. He's from the refrigeration background. Nobody understands it better than him to deep dive into that. But before that, we all know this industry is poised for growth. I want you to actually spell out to our viewers today as to where do you see these opportunities, and how are you planning as Werner Finley to capitalize on these big opportunities that the Indian market is offering now?
Right. See, the last 2 years, definitely India's, positioned so well for growth, right? It has been positioned so well for growth from, since probably the last 1 or 2 decades. But for some reason, the growth hasn't kicked in as much as we expected it to kick in. But in the last 2 years, I think we are in the Goldilocks zone. We are so well located. That's a disadvantage to the Chinas of the world is going to become the advantage to India. So, and especially in manufacturing, and, of course, IT services, is always available. Especially in manufacturing, I think we are poised for growth. And it is challenging. It is challenging to actually, capitalize this opportunity. And I only hope that we won't miss the bus. There are the key challenges. If you ask me, the key challenges of being ready for this growth, I think everybody understands. Right from availability of finance to availability of trained manpower to talent to technology to all of this is a huge challenge for us, and everything we have to do it on our own, especially here. So we need to definitely come together, share knowledge like this and try to understand how we can be ready so that whenever this opportunity knocks at you, you are ready, you are equipped to take on and move forward.
Wow, great. So I'm going to bring in Akash now. Akash, 70% of your time for business growth and only 30% to manage your current business. You and me should be on a holiday, my friend.
Yeah, that's the reason this meeting has been held. It's my last, and I think we've learned a lot of stuff from Viplov. So, no, seriously, Viplov. I'm so glad that when we are sitting over here and when you're talking, actually, I can see 2 generations. And while it's not that all our viewers have met your dad personally.
Right.
So it would be, really nice. I think it's an honor if you can just, speak about some of those things that you remember, some experiences that you think really touched you and you knew that this is the way of life. And also in terms of his business ethos, how his. So can you just touch on those things so our viewers can learn a lot, I think, from this.
Yeah, thanks,
no better
Akash.
time but to speak on this for you.
Thanks, Akash. So he, comes from extremely humble background. So basically, our family is from, Kolar Goldfields. It's a very small mining town, 100 kilometers from Bangalore. And he had a very tough childhood in terms of, meeting ends, etc. So somewhere at the age of 13 itself, he started kind of working with his mother, trying to do things at home. And they had a catering, kind of a small business running out of home. And dad was very much involved, in all of it, along with his mother. And then, slowly he finished his education, and he did his mechanical, engineering, and everything was extremely difficult for him in terms of affording education, affording all the expenses around it, etc. Many of his friends and others have helped him through his difficult days. And then after his education, he got into ordnance factories. So he got a government defense job, and he was earning quite well. But always he had this real bug inside him that he has to become an entrepreneur. But at the same time, back home, the need for money and security and stability and all of that was keeping him glued to his job, while he was performing well and enjoying his job. But he always had this kida in him that he wanted to start something on his own and become an entrepreneur someday. So on the side, he always had a business. So it seems he used to manufacture nylon buttons from his house, and sell it in Pune Lakshmi Bazaar while he was working in the ordnance bomb factory in Karki. So therefore, we remember at home that there was always some side business going on. So he would come back from work, start working in the evening at home. And one of my aunt used to be his assistant, and these two people were always working in a room with a typewriter, making quotations, typing orders, etc. So he had many businesses he started and closed during his entire lifetime. And somewhere during 1986, he thought, I can't keep my keep my feet on both the boats. I need to definitely now move and pursue my entrepreneurial journey. Otherwise, I'll be too old before I take this leap. So in 1986, he made the decision, and he resigned from his government job in BEML, Bharat Earthmovers Limited, KGF Kolar Goldfields. At that time, he was already general manager maintenance. It was a very good job. We had everything that we wanted for a good living. But he quit that job, and it was we were living 100 kilometers from Bangalore, and then he used to come travel to Bangalore to establish this business with some partners back then. And that's where Werner Finley took birth. And this name Werner Finley also was his brainchild, where he didn't want to name the business as Ramakrishna or something like that. He wanted it to sound very European, and he had also traveled quite a bit during his BML days to other countries to inspect machines and stuff like that. So he knew that it has to be named. The company has to carry a name which is easy for him to market. And then he chose cooling as a subject because he thought until the time the sun shines, this business is going to be around. So there is no threat as such for this business. So this is something he has repeated many times, and he has told it in many ways. He used to also say that today we have life on earth because of the favorable temperature that we have. So temperature is so important for life on earth. So now if you see that very temperature is becoming kind of is getting stretched on both sides. You have colder winters and you have hotter summers, and cooling or heating is the two sides of the same coin. So this technology or this science is something that will stay until the time there's life on earth. This is something that he would always tell me. And he was a real slowly from a technocrat to an entrepreneur, he became a real businessman. In the sense, he stopped talking product, he stopped talking application, etc. He would talk of business, right? Saying that, your DNA is cooling and that's what, you guys know to do, but don't restrict yourself, to a product or to an application or to a, certain sector or, certain, don't compartmentalize yourself. Look at it as a business, look for opportunities, and start growing is what he would always tell us. And from his own life, what I have seen and what I have understood more deeply now that he is not there is he would always say that finally what I have understood after being in business for so many years and after creating and closing so many businesses, is business is nothing but relationships. This is what he would say. Spend your time in building strong relationships and the business will happen. People will teach you what to do, people will handhold you, and your relationships will, finally take you where, you deserve to be. It's not your education, it's not the family background or the economical background, etc. People who have had all of this also have not been able to kind of, achieve what success is for them. But he said, if you have the right focus, have it on relationships, and that will take you to where you have to go. And he was very, very, therefore, very people centric. So he always, there was this ritual when he was, coming to office, pre-COVID. So every day on rotation, he would have lunch with a different employee in his cabin. And, he knew so much of personal details about each one's families. And suddenly he would call me and, send me a resume and say, hey, this guy's son needs a job. Why don't you talk to your IT folks and, get him a job there? And he would know names and so many details about each one of their families, and everybody had a unique relationship with them. And the strange part is he never for once thought that, I'm this business owner, I should not become so close to my employees. None of those things ever crossed his mind. He had no doubt about it. So he went so deep into his relationships, and he never networked thinking that he is networking for business. It was literally relationships. It was literally relationships, and it was kind of painstakingly consistent also. He was very, very consistent in whatever he did. So every day, his personal assistant used to organize lunch with different employees, and they would look forward to it so much. And many of their regrets is last 2 years, they haven't been able to have lunch with him. And many new employees and, the youngsters that we have, they say, oh my God, we didn't even get a chance to have lunch with him. So yes, I mean, he was a personality, and he's had a tremendous influence on, all of us.
Viplov, I think he gave a very holistic view to what he was doing. I think you're lucky to have a mentor like him. He tried to make the entire journey very enjoyable for you, because he kind of told you that, listen, you need to solve people's problems, but you also need to create relationships which you'll enjoy, and that is where the passion and but I still think there are very, very big shoes for you to fill.
Yeah.
What you can start with is that, since your name is European, I think your next office could be in Europe, and that is where you could be heading out next, just to take your direction. Awesome, Viplov. Thank you. I love the time you spent on that question. It needed that time, and very, very enriching for all our viewers. Thank you again.
Thank you,
So,
Akash.
Viplov, let me just move a little to what's happening with chillers, in the future. So we understand that the government, after air conditioning, was also going to get into star labeling
Yes.
for the chillers in HVAC, in process cooling, etc. So
Yeah.
so tell us something. What support would manufacturers like you want from Rata, as from the commercial side of this refrigeration industry? What is it that you would think we could actually play our role? And whatever you're ready for, is the industry ready for this? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, in fact, Akash, I'm one of the committee members representing the industrial cooling systems to the BEE, which is talking about star rating for chillers. So right now, yes, there is a plan to also rope in chillers that we manufacture, which is different from the air conditioning chillers, because our chillers work at different water temperatures compared to the HVAC chillers. HVAC chillers are generally working between 7 and 12 degrees, sometimes go up to 15. But we have applications where we run our equipment even at 25, sometimes all the way down to minus 40 if it is a low temperature application, right? So we will also come under star rating. That's also in the discussion. It's under the scope. And what we currently definitely need is awareness. What is the star rating and how is it going to be useful for your business, right? So that is something that needs to become very clear to everybody, that energy efficiency is going to be the only selling point for refrigeration equipment, because it is a power guzzler, right? And it is literally something that affects the bottom line of every user. So it's very important to understand that the better your star rating, the higher the chances of you being able to get a better share of your market. So it is a marketing wise, it is definitely an extremely important, awareness and investments that businesses have to make. And for that awareness, probably Rata can, have sessions exclusively related to, awareness related to star rating. And testing facilities, today, as such, the government testing facilities are almost inexistent. I don't know where, at least here, where in Bangalore, it is difficult for me to, think of anything other than CPRI or, a couple of other places. But at the same time, it is probably not fully equipped to handle the entire range of refrigeration or air conditioning equipment that is going to come under star rating. So there will be, of course, companies, private companies like Danfoss and Emerson's have come forward to kind of help, OEMs and other businesses in, testing and, recalibrating, and maybe also some design consulting related to how the system has to be tweaked to be made, rated or get a better star rating. So a lot of hand holding is required here. A lot of networking, getting connections and awareness is required here. So I'm sure Rata can do a lot of useful work when it comes to star rating. And it's going to be a race also. Whoever does it first definitely will have the, advantage. So it is better that, we focus on this subject from a business standpoint.
Yes, Viplav, I think because the scope, of refrigeration is increasing so much
Yeah.
year on year, that it's just so important that people prepare for this much before it comes in. I know the government has extended deadlines, but it's
Yes.
still important as an industry that we need to be prepared for it, and hence that question, if Rata
Right.
can be. So thank you. That's a point we've noted, Viplav. We may also use your services at
Sure,
Rata
sure.
to bring in this the required infra, etc. Okay, let me talk a little about what we are doing at Rata in terms of at the government phase. So we've had GST, in the beginning when 2017 GST came in, refrigeration systems were also 28%. So there was a lot of representation from Rata, and it was specifically to, bring down based on that, listen, our industry is not a luxury, it is an essential at the end. So that was one of the points where we've had a lot of representation. Secondly, recently, if you also realize, there have been anti-dumping duties that were being imposed, both on certain copper and on refrigerants, which kind of may have affected a manufacturing industry like yours. So can you just tell us a little bit, so it's more, we are say on the same wavelength in terms of what direction we've taken over there, and how it's affected you, and what maybe needs to be done, or what are you looking forward to from this again?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, from my standpoint, cooling or air conditioning is an essential. It's not a luxury, number one. So, definitely, the high GST rates that are being applied to this category of, equipment needs to be definitely relooked in. And that will help also the, cost to come down, or the price to come down, and, will help better penetration of air conditioning, etc. Because the summers are becoming so hot in India, and the affordability, is still a question mark. And we have hardly, I'm not very sure of the figure, maybe we have some 10-11% penetration, vis-a-vis compared to a China, which has, 70% penetration of air conditioning or heating, as required. So it's an essential, and it is something that is very important for a person to sleep well. So I think it's an extreme essential, or work well, right? So it cannot come under luxury anymore. And see, we are, in terms of, global competition, we don't have the lead. Unfortunately, we missed, because we missed the industrial revolution, and China had a very different way of coming up to speed and all of that, which we didn't have. So we have a lag, and therefore we need some time to come to the same starting line, wherein we can also start competing with other countries globally. So therefore, we definitely need some sheltering from the government, and some sort of a security from the government in terms of having anti-dumping duties, etc., on certain commodities. Otherwise, the war is very difficult for us to fight unless we have the support of the government, in this area. And I think whatever you guys are doing is amazing, that you're already able to appeal or represent at a government level. And I would definitely want to be a part of that initiative that you guys have taken up.
Awesome, Viplov. Let me just come back to the kind of members that we have. So most of our members are MSMEs,
Right.
and now I'm particularly keen to getting your two bits for our OEMs who are there, who where they've been running their business, they know their business very well, they know their product very well, they've been able to sustain themselves. I want to understand how or what do you think are the three most important factors for such MSMEs to grow year on year, for sustainability. I'd really like to know the three top things in your mind that come out for that.
Right. Fantastic. It's a very, very interesting question. I think every business, no matter how big or small, is grappling around this question. Correct? It is very tough to, kind of be assured of year-on-year growth with so much of uncertainty, so many variables affecting your, businesses on a daily basis. And it is sometimes, it also feels humanly impossible to be able to consider all of these and make a fantastic strategic plan which never fails. I think more than statistically, I think 70% of the plans fail. So yeah, so it is very important for the business owner to look at the business very holistically, right? You cannot look at the business as just I've heard many times people say, this is the engine of the business, that is the engine of the business. I think that's a wrong way to look at business. I think you need to look at everything as a pillar, right? Where every pillar is very important for the stability of the structure, right? And therefore, I read this book long back. It's called Balance Scorecard, written by two guys. I've just noted their names also, if it was useful. Norton and Kaplan. So Norton and Kaplan have written this book called Balance Scorecard, which is something that kind of started or gave me this fundamental way of thinking when it comes to how it's called it comes under strategic management systems. How to have a strategic management system so that you have enough bandwidth to focus on growth, right? So that is something that we earlier also spoke in the show. So basically, one is the one pillar of your thought process should be about your customer, about your market. Correct? You should always understand, position yourself correctly to your customer. You need to understand what's the persona of your customer and position yourself rightly. And every year you need to be very clear which are the customers that you need to acquire, which are the customers that you need to retain, which are the customers you need to let go. You need to be very clear about who are your customers for your business and who you need for your growth, and that will lead you to other thought processes. And the second pillar is your financials. Your financials have to be sound, and your profitability of the business, definitely for MSMEs or businesses like us, we are not funded by some external VC or somebody who says, okay, fine, 10 years, this volume you can make profits. Then we can't work on projected revenues. Correct? Every year we need to make our monies so that next year we can retain our pool of people and also satisfy our shareholders. Correct? So every year the business needs to make its due profit. So it is very important to build in that factor into your financials. And also cash flow is extremely important, as we all understand this very well. Cash flow is extremely important, and being also very prudent in your debt portfolio is extremely important. So second pillar is financials that needs to always be looked at and strengthened here. The third one is your internal business processes and systems. So your existing bread and butter needs to run autonomously. That needs to have clear boundary conditions, clear processes, clear systems where it is professionally run. You need not be there to run, that part of your business. So probably a monthly MIS report or a meeting with all your, key employees. I think that should, be able to run your, internal business process, which is the running business. And then finally, the most important thing is, how to build in a culture of learning, within the organization. It's not enough that only the owner is learning, correct? Or only the head of the business is learning. So it is very important to build in the culture of learning so that the people within the business are also growing in their knowledge and their capabilities. So that when newer challenges come, etc., you're not alone. You can pick up somebody, from your business, and you can face challenges together. So four, key factors are, customer, finances, internal business process, and learning.
Thanks, Viplav. I asked you for 3. You've given us more. But I just love the point where because it all starts with you choose what you want to do, you take a stand in terms of which direction you want to go in, what you want to leave, what you want to keep, and then the other 3 follow. Because from
Correct.
what I understand, it's very easy for us, and we've always followed our financial reporting. What is the return on the capital employed? That's
Right.
important for us. But
Right.
if this is, the kind of balance that you've brought in, I think it's fantastic. I'm sure our viewers have learned a lot from that one.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So we've heard about what you want to tell the first generation. I want you to give a reality picture to the second generation coming in, harsh or rosy. Tell us what you think. Yeah, your generation, generation 1.5 now. Tell us
Right.
about generation 2. Yeah.
Yeah. See, if we look around, definitely it is easy, or easy to understand that we need to market our business to the youngsters today. It's not out there which they will want to pick. They would want to definitely go with what the trends are. Today the trend is probably EVs, or today the trend is IT services, or a lot of other trends that you can see are going around, which have abundance of opportunity. So here we need to also start marketing and understanding that there is a potential within our sector or our industry which actually can be unleashed only by these youngsters when they come in and bring in the innovation. Money flows where there's innovation, right? So it's right now, if we say that money is not flowing into air conditioning and refrigeration, I think one of the key reasons would be there's not enough innovation happening. Correct. So today, when you see all migration of IC to EV technology that's happening, and every day in the news you read so much of money from other industries are flowing into this, right? So because there's a lot of innovation happening there. So similarly, I think there's huge opportunity of innovation, within this cooling industry also. Whether it is air conditioning or refrigeration, I think there are massive topics that can be taken up. One could be, of course, energy efficiency that we are all talking about, and there's no end to that. You could seriously look at it, and the newer refrigerants, that are coming up. There's a lot of innovation happening there also, at least in Europe, as we see, and miniaturizing, our compacting our solutions. Right now, one big issue is also about the size of these cooling systems, which is not helping it to be applied to various applications because of the size and the volume of it. So it is extremely important for us to market our industry to the next generation, and also create that environment wherein they can come and innovate. I think some resource, or some basically some part of whatever we earn as profits, we need to put it aside and see that some innovation is happening within our industry. And that's when these young guys, they need challenges. It's not that they need big paychecks. That's a category. I do agree that campus recruitment mein kisi ko 30 lakh mil gaya, 40 lakh mil gaya, all that news goes around. But when I talk to young people, even on Saturday we have 30 Israeli students coming to our factory. So I want to address them from this standpoint only, saying that what they actually need, if you help them understand they need challenges and they need a free environment where they can explore their full potential. If you are able to give them, काम में मजा, I think they will work. And it has to be challenging. It has to be something driven by innovation, etc. So from what I want to tell the younger generation is, cooling is one of the top 5 topics that concerns humankind. I think if you have to list down top 5, cooling is definitely one of them, or thermal management is one of them, right? We cannot live, if we don't have thermal management technology, with us, which is also growing and getting, smarter by the day. So there's a huge opportunity, because for whatever reasons, there hasn't been enough innovation, at least in the last 50 years that I have been, following. So yes, I invite the young people to, join this industry and, take it to the next level.
It's not all about just coming and building the same systems that your father has built, right?
No, that's done. We need to do that and, keep it aside. That is the cash cow. We need to create the cash cow so that the new generation comes and spends it in smarter ways and transforms these businesses into smarter businesses.
Awesome. I think that's a brilliant catch for the bright future that our industry is heading to. Viplov, before I call back Ajit, one final question on
Yes, Akash.
what do you think mergers and acquisitions are, and how they're going to get into our industry? Will it become more common? Why? Have you had some of the people coming and asking you to sell their company?
Yes. See, today, if I was talking to you about, India being in the Goldilocks zone of, business today. For those of whom must be wondering what's Goldilocks zone, I mean, Earth is, in such a perfect position, in the solar system, that it has the right temperature range, and it has the right gravitational force, so that liquid water exists, right? So because liquid water exists and the temperatures are so favorable, that's how life is still sustained on Earth. So something similar to that is where India is today. It is positioned so well. We have a huge young population that is coming out of college on a daily basis, and we already have a fundamental base industry setup, which is been there for the last so many decades in India after independence. And China has a disadvantage today, because most companies are not favoring to continue running their shops in China. Most of them want to have another neighboring shop from which they can start getting the same advantages of low labor cost and high scalability of manufacturing, etc. There are challenges, but yes, M&As are going to happen big time in refrigeration, air conditioning, manufacturing. Not just refrigeration and air conditioning, even other industries are going to see a lot of M&As. So yes, in the last, let me say since 2014-15, every year we've had an opportunity. Literally every year we've had 1 or 2 opportunities of companies coming and wanting to either do a separate joint venture with us, or buy some stake within our company, etc., etc. But somewhere, we are open to it. We are open towards it. It's very important. Like I said, the business keeps growing, because that's the only sense, or that's the only way to know whether you're alive or not, is to make sure that your business is growing year on year. And somewhere we also have a certain limitation, correct? And that's the time when we start opening up and getting in new knowledge and better knowledge from wherever it is coming. So M&As, yes, Akash, is going to happen quite a bit, and I think we should also groom ourselves a bit, because most companies come here and they visit and they get a shock. So we need to groom ourselves to certain standards, certain presentability, and we need to also culturally kind of become more open. It's very important when these marriages happen. It happens at all levels. It is not just okay, you have a manufacturing facility, you understand my technology, chalo, let's do a joint venture. Most joint ventures, actually, if you go and see, fail because of cultural mismatches. Ultimately, it's so difficult to point your finger and say, why did this M&A succeed, or why did it fail? So underneath all of it would actually be culture of people. If that doesn't gel, then great things cannot be done. So we need to also kind of upgrade ourselves in terms of the way we operate our businesses, bring our processes and systems, to an international standard level, so that when somebody comes and looks at your business, he understands it. And also keep your business transparent, clean. That only gives you more value, right? So because even our business has grown from being very small mom and pop shop to what it is today, right? So we've seen a lot of advantage in keeping everything very clean, and where somebody just comes and one dashboard, and he should be able to understand your business. So that's the way you need to distill and keep your business very, very clean. And also culturally, we need to probably start becoming more open, and sometimes we might even have to mirror certain cultures, and that's when they'll also appreciate our culture, and that's when the right marriage can happen. So I think everybody should be ready for M&As, and also in fact proactively go and meet consultants, understand what are the opportunities currently, because all embassy people are going around scouting for suitable companies where M&As can happen. So there's a huge opportunity right now also as we are speaking, as well as in future. You'll see many, many M&As in refrigeration and air conditioning.
Viplov, I heard you. You just didn't say something. I heard it. It was in your mind. What you were saying is that while somebody can come and buy me, I'm also open to buying somebody else, and that's what you're building towards. So awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Viplov.
Yeah, he's quite a pushy guy, Viplav. Akash is not going to. He's got something up his mind. He's going to push it, man. Yeah. You know what, Viplav? Akash and me and all of us at the association always think. See, the challenge that we find is, there's very little understanding of our industry, and we find that not only in the general public, but also in the government corridors. You've gone through the scale up, and the association we want to ask is, people who have gone through that journey, what is it that we need to bring to their notice, so that the whole process of scaling up can be made easier? What are the things that you think the association should take up to the authorities and say that, listen, fix these things, look at the opportunity? So what's your take on that?
Yeah. See, one is it's completely missing here, academia and industry working together, because innovation should happen. For the money will flow in, okay, but innovation should happen. And for innovation to happen, we need to work with, academia. We need to be very closely working with all the good, technical institutes or, colleges around us. Like, for example, in Bangalore, we have Indian Institute of Science, and then in Chennai, we have IIT Chennai, which has a fantastic refrigeration, lab, and a lot of innovation is happening there. And even if you see today any other industry also where innovation is happening, it's all somewhere, linked to some, IIT or, one of these colleges are also, helping them innovate. So I think that is something that the government or the industry themselves also can do, which is, work very closely with, educational institutions or research institutions, etc. And second thing is, technology transfer. I think, we need to also be active at the embassy or, at the trade, network levels, where it is important for us to actively seek, technical collaborations. So that will definitely give you a sudden, spring in your, feet, kind of a jump in your business. So that is something that can also transform your business. And third is, of course, easy availability of, finance from banks, not asking collateral securities, gar likh ke do, ya ye likh ke do. This is extremely, old fashioned. I think once you have done the due diligence and you know that it is a disciplined and, good business, I think getting money should not be that hard, right, from banks. And three is, infrastructure. Jitna bhi bole kam hai. It is really, really sad state of affairs. Somebody comes. I still remember joint venture opportunity. Came in, and I went to the airport, and I had to drive him through such bad roads to take him to my factory those days in Pina, and I could imagine what was going on in his mind. We need to seriously. I don't know. It's a very big problem even for any government to solve currently, because it's become such a monster. So infrastructure, has to be first put in place. Industry has to be in a very respectable place. It's giving so much of revenue to the government. So that importance is something that really needs to go to the next level. So that is somewhere again, I think organizations like Rata, etc., should push very hard. Where getting a piece of land or in a decent industrial park should not be a Herculean task, and you should not go through brokers after brokers paying bribes to get that land. It should be much more easier. It should be very straightforward. So all of these things need to be put in place. From the from my point of view, we need to represent and take it to the government.
That's interesting. Yeah, actually, there's a lot of common things not only in refrigeration but across the industry that these things need
Yeah.
to come. It's just not from the refrigeration perspective.
Yeah.
Viplav, before we actually close the event, just the last few things. We got some very interesting questions also here.
Okay.
There's a very common problem that everybody, and I'm especially raising this to you because you said you got to learn to say no.
Yeah.
And very thing is, we are very price sensitive. This is a very price sensitive market. There's always one person cutting each other on costs and everything. Is there a way to stay out of this? I mean, how have you stayed out of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a choice you have to make. So there, first is understand where you want to position yourself. The 4 P's of marketing and all of that everybody knows, but we don't do it. When it comes down to doing it, somewhere choot jata hai. So we need to position ourselves very clearly, and then no complaints. If you are positioning yourself in the very competitive mass market, then yes, it is going to be price sensitive. You need to, put back your business, aligned to it. If you are in the mass premium segment, you know exactly where your price points are and how your, expenses have to be. And if you're in the premium segment, then yes, you know exactly how to position yourself. You want to play in all the 3, it's complicated, but you still can. So it's extremely important to position yourself right. And once you position yourself and you don't want to be in the, a price sensitive market, you should know to say no to those opportunities. You need to be able to smell those opportunities out and stay out of it. The market is huge. We cannot think that I will not be able to grow unless I also go and, compete in the price sensitive market. You need to do your market research right. And you need to go, if you are wanting to sell, value for money and not just price, right? If you want to sell value for money, you need to go to that customer who understands it. You cannot go to a customer who doesn't understand it or it doesn't make sense for his business and, go and talk value for business there, value for money there. It won't work. So it's extremely important to position yourself right. And then wherever you position, you need to play there. So we have stayed out of, this price war. And every year there are at least some 3 or 4 customers, which we let go also from our previous, years customer, list. Because, it is a price sensitive market he is playing in, with all due respect. And we need a price rise, which he thinks he cannot afford. So no hard feelings, right? He will find another supplier. I'll find another customer.
Amazing. That's the positivity. I'll find another customer, he'll find another supplier.
Exactly.
That's how it works. That's the market forces work, and you make sure you grow your business. CSR is always linked to very large companies, and MSMEs don't connect with it. But you're one of those companies, in spite of being an MSME with small turnover, has been actively into CSR. Tell us what are the activities and how do you go about doing this?
Right. Yeah. So CSR is something we started way back in 2008. My father, like I said, had a very socialistic, view. I would always say that he had a socialistic heart and a capitalistic mind, and he knew how to balance both of these. He lived with such contradicting, mind and heart, and he was able to strike that balance and take that vision forward. So 2008 itself, he said some part of our earning has to go back to society. We cannot neglect. Okay, you have employees, and they are stakeholders. They are not society, right? Your employees are your stakeholders. You have shareholders, you have stakeholders, and then you have society, right? So we need to give back to society because they are part of your business. Indirectly, they are. And therefore, during that time, Azim Premji came up with this scheme of, adopt a school through the government. So it is literally with, adoption papers. So in 2008, we adopted this, school, and it is still continuing. So where we fund whatever, unfortunately, it's a government school. The government school need not have private funding, but that's the situation here, right? The government school didn't have toilets. The government school didn't have benches and, proper chairs for the students to sit. And there were some boarders in the school who would stay back in the evening, because most construction labor or single parent, would come and leave their children there, and they would stay back there, 50 of them. And of course, Akshay Patra used to send excellent food for all of them. So food was not a problem. But all other infrastructure facility was absolutely dilapidated. So then, our team members, even today, I'm not personally involved in the CSR activity. My, team, there is a team that, takes care of this, where every year, they go visit and with the headmaster and teachers and understand what the requirements are. And we try to not only fund, but also participate in, certain of their functions and etc. So it gives a amazing sense of being. It's an amazing sense of being. Otherwise, we get so caught into business, profits, return on investment, all of these things, and somewhere it will start playing on your mind as guilt, after some time. So it is extremely important to give back some part and balance and humble which will humble you down, because it's so important to have that quality, psychological quality of gratitude slash being humble. Because if you lose that, then you kind of lose direction. So yeah, CSR, and also we stopped all other donations checks that we used to sign. We said everything goes into this. So we said no to every other donation seeker, saying that sorry, we have one place, we have focused. Because if you don't focus, nothing changes, right? You're giving 10,000 rupees to 100 people, no impact. But put all of it into this school, and there's really an impact. So that's how.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's very small. It's very small what we're doing, but we can see the change. And employees, go and celebrate their children's birthdays there. So that's the beauty.
Yeah. Socialist heart with a capitalist mind. Awesome, yeah. Too good. I'm just going to take up this one question before we close the session today.
Sure.
This is Jayesh Jain. Jayesh has actually joined us from Chennai today. I know him. He's the co-founder of Thermology. He has a very interesting question. He says, what role do you see that IoT, 5G, data engineering can or are already playing in the growth of Werner Finley? That's very delicate. Yeah. I think he's making a sales pitch to you.
I really don't mind that, because this is the hottest topic. Yeah, I'll probably connect to Jayesh Jain later.
Yeah. So, but you want to put some thoughts on what he's saying? Yeah.
Yes. For 35 years, we have sold chillers. We don't even know where they're working, right? Unconnected assets, unconnected assets. And we always looked at business as something that happens, only once when you sell an equipment. But this can change the entire dimension of, lifetime earning, from these assets that are working in different places. So not only that, I mean, we don't even know whether our cooling solutions are, optimal for the application or not. Many times probably we're given huge cooling systems where actually the requirement is 50, 60, 70% of, what's installed. So a lot of value like this is getting completely lost because the systems are not connected. They're not speaking back to us. So since last couple of years, we have all the critical applications like medical and, IT data center systems. We have IoTs already installed in them. And we have a team and we did this, completely in-house, and we completely monitor all of these systems. We are giving, 99% uptime to most of these customers, that are linked through these IoTs to us. And we are able to kind of show them, the energy efficiencies and all of that we send them KPI reports, literally. So it shows so much of value to the customer also for having, been doing business with us. So in Werner Finley, I think, in the next 2 to 3 years, we actually have a goal also where we want to completely have 100% connected systems.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I guess that's where that whole industry is going through, a marriage between digitization and mechanical engineering. That's the way forward to build in predictive maintenance and to also get in data. Amazing. Yeah. Mr. Viplov, it's been fabulous talking to you. A lot of insights, fantastic things. Akash, you set this ball rolling. You want to close the event with with some of the learnings that we've had today.
I think it's very, very inspiring, Viplov. You've when you've come here and brought in the values that Mr. Gundu Rao, your father, set in to the company and to you, you've given a lot of message to the industry, to the trade, and a lot of learnings for people to take back. So yes, we've done it with an entrepreneur who is second generation in Bangalore into some specific refrigeration systems that he's making. But look at the mind. It's so, wide in terms of thought that I'm sure people will get attracted. Yeah, people will get attracted to get into this industry. The R is very small in Ishre, Rata, but this is where it starts. And I think these small steps, with you getting into your dad's big shoes, it's going to take a lot of people together in this industry. Do good for Rata as well. And we're looking forward to doing stuff which will create value. CSR is something that has come extremely new to people, MSMEs over here. I don't know if the 1,000 people who are members of Rata actually think exactly the way you're thinking in terms of that. Look at the difference that we can make. So, as I read once on one of your LinkedIn pages, I think you should go ahead, build that statue of your father in your campus, and we all look forward to a lot of interactions with you, Mr. Viplov. It's really been a pleasure having you with Ajit and myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Viplav. It's been fabulous. And we've had a fabulous session. To all our viewers, this session is going to be there live every time for you to come back and visit. You can visit our website, www.rataindia.com. Go to the event section, search for over 200 such events that we've done and see it anytime when you want. Share it with your friends. And let's keep the momentum going. Thank you, Mr. Viplav. Thank you for taking time out. Thanks,
Thank you,
Akash, for
Ajit.
putting
Thank
this
you,
together.
Akash.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye.
See you
Bye,
next
everybody.
month again.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.
Bye.